Hi everybody, just checking in with you. Happy New Year. I hope everything went well over your holidays. A lot of things going on always, you know. I want to talk to you. I named this thing Hold the Reins Loosely. I'm going to make this kind of quick because I've got a lot of things that we're preparing for. There's a lot of things that are getting ready to happen. I think that what we're getting is we're getting bits and pieces of information about what God wants us to do, where we need to position ourselves, how we need to station ourselves for the upcoming days. We're not really sure exactly what's going to be going on, but I had a word for some friends of mine that actually have a ministry, and I felt very strongly to tell them, you need to hold the reins loosely. What does that mean? It means that you just don't hold on to things. You can make your plans, but God's going to maybe change your plans, or circumstances could come up that would arrange your plans or change your plans in a way that you didn't expect. So it's going to do us a lot of good if we're not anxious. You know, patience is a virtue in being anxious. It says be anxious for nothing. Be anxious for nothing. So if we're anxious for nothing, then things are going to begin to unfold for us that will keep us in peace. It'll give us the ability to know that God's in charge. He's the one that directs our path. He's the one that sets our path on our feet on a path that will lead to the right place at the right time. You know, He directs us. He gives us the pathway. He also makes crooked places straight, which is really cool because we're on places that look like there's no way, there's no passable way, there's no way to get through it, or things are so twisted up, or there's so many things that are going ridiculous that we don't know how this is going to work out. But God has a way to work this out. And so what He's wanting us to do right now is He's gonna demand us to trust. Unlike anything we've ever done before, we're going to have to learn to trust Him. We can't listen to everything else and everyone else. We have to listen to Him. And so there will be these times where He's telling us, I want you to do this. I want you to do that. I need you to go here. I want you to let go of that. I want you to begin to hold the reins loosely. Don't hold on to things and be so tenacious and be stubborn about taking ground or standing in a place where God's saying, I wanted you there for a second, but I've got this over here now that I need for you to do. So that'll help you in navigating these days ahead. We've got a lot of different events coming up. We've got, if you've ordered books, let me just say this, if you've ordered books, we are in the process of getting them all out. We ran out of the dream books. There's a paper shortage, and so paper's in high demand, and we're trying to get more books printed for us to get them out. So please be patient. I know that it's been, you know, we've had holidays and we've had Sundays and we've had times when the post office wasn't even open. But the other thing I want to tell you is, I felt like God said this to me. I went for a drive. You know, I always ask God in the beginning, like, okay, what are we looking at for this year? You know, I want to get a word for the year. I want to know, what is it that you're doing? And He said, it's going to be a time, this will be a year of you learning to listen and don't be presumptuous. In other words, I'm going to counsel you and guide you with my eye. I'm going to give you a message. I'm going to show you things from heaven's perspective. And I need you to do exactly what I show you. And don't do it another way. Don't do it an old way. Don't do it a way that you did before that worked. I need for you to listen to me, be directed by me. I'm going to counsel you with my eye. And it's going to give you a perspective from heaven's view. Okay? And He reminded me when I was driving around, He said, you know, your citizenship is in heaven. I mean, you live on the earth and you're accomplishing things on the earth, but your citizenship is in heaven. So there's going to be things that I'm going to show you, and I want you to do it exactly as I tell you to do it. So that means it's a fine-tuning moment. It's a fine-tuning time of where He tells us what He needs for us to hear and how He wants for us to accomplish this goal here on earth. I'm going to be sharing some of this at the New Beginnings Conference with Pastor Troy Brewer at Open Door. I've got the 2 o'clock service on the 17th, and then we have a prophetic roundtable after that in Burleson, Texas. And then I'm also in DC. I'll be at the, it's a conference in DC. It's on my website. It's the 13th through the 16th, I think, or 15th. So I'll be sharing some more in detail about what I feel is coming. I think this is a time where God says, I've always given you the victory. I will always give you the victory. But this is a time to learn new things. Okay, it is a time God is doing new things. If God is doing new things, we have to learn new things. We can't keep doing old things and expect different results. All right, so this is going to be something that we have to pay attention to. Hold the reins loosely. You can make your plans, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be accomplished the way that you've wanted them to or the way you thought it was going to play out. There may be twists and turns, but God is always going to give you direction. What's going to happen is we're going to grow in Him. We're going to begin to learn His ways. It's Psalm 119. Teach me your ways and I'll walk in your truth. Show me what you need me to do. Give me the understanding that I need in order to accomplish what you've given us to do. So we are there. We're there in this time now. We can't take anything for granted. We can't just expect that everything's going to be the way it was. It's not going to be the way it was. There will not be things the way they were. But God is in the midst of us, and He's giving us the victory. He's giving us the idea. He's giving the understanding. He's given us new ideas. He's giving us things that we've got to have in order to accomplish what we've been put here to do. Okay, we have an assignment, we know this, and so we've got to listen to what He says. So He told me this. He said, I'm going to give you my perspective from heaven. I'm going to tell you what to do, and I need you to do it exactly the way I tell you to do it. And this is something that I learned like 25, 30 years ago when I started doing outreaches in all the weird places where I had no grid for any of it. I didn't know what I was doing there and why I was there. And I had to learn a different way of communicating. There's a thing about communication. There's another thing about comprehension. It's giving people the ability to comprehend or to understand what you're saying to them and how He wants us to communicate with one another. That would go outside the church and inside the church. We have to communicate in a way that it can be comprehended. And so God's going to show us from His perspective what He needs for us to understand, even comprehend from heaven's perspective. Okay, so we're there. It's going to be a fun ride. The other thing He said is don't be anxious. Keep peaceful. In other words, in exchange burdens. His burden is light. His yoke is easy. His burden is light. Ours are heavy. When we're in the flow of doing it His way, everything becomes easy. He takes the burden. He takes all the pressure. He takes all the stuff. The other thing He told me is He's going to refresh His people this year. His people. The people that have been following Him, that have been trying to figure it out, that have been trying to get perspective and understanding, that have been struggling with God knows what, all kinds of things coming down the pike. He's going to refresh us this year. We're going to be refreshed. Even in the first part of the year, we're going to have a real refreshing that's coming from heaven. And we're not going to be worried about things. And we're going to be able to just move in sync with Him. And it's going to take a lot of the pressure off of us, okay? A lot of people dealt with some really hard things this past year. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it was not easy. People lost loved ones. There were things that happened way out of control. And it's interesting that, when we know that things have happened like that and all that, it's hard sometimes not to be able to just have a knee-jerk response or to have, anxiously look about and try and figure it out. That's why He said, I'm going to give you my view. I'm going to give you the ability to see it from heaven's perspective. When that happens, you get the timing. You understand the timing that's on earth that is not in heaven, because there's no time in heaven. But you understand the timing from heaven's perspective about Earth's clock. And then you also understand His ways. And then you also understand where you fit in the program of His ways and what He has for you to do, what He has for me to do. So this is going to be a good year. We're going to be refreshed. We're going to feel the burden lifted. We're going to be able just to move on and remember that, you know, we're on the earth for a period of time and to accomplish something. So God's going to help us to do that. So we're going to be seeing it from a really great perspective, and it's going to relieve us from all this other pressure and stuff like that. I want to tell you one more thing. We lived in Utah for a number of years, for a lot of years actually, and we pastored churches there, and we were not Mormon. We've never been Mormon, okay? But we heard a lot of things from people who were in the Mormon church, and especially from the perspective down in with Warren Jeffs. That was it was a cult, and it was people down in Colorado City, and he had a polygamist compound down there. And what happened was every single day, and we heard this from people who literally, when that whole thing blew up and people came out of it, you know, they were saying day in, day out, all day long, all they heard was his voice, Warren Jeffs. That's all they heard. That's all they could play in their house. Their kids had to hear it. Their wives had to hear it. The people who lived in the house had to hear it. Everyone had to hear it. They couldn't listen to an outside voice. They couldn't listen to anyone else. They had to listen to him. And it was brainwashing. And it was giving them only his perspective and only what he thought and only what he wanted things to do and how things needed to go. And when it came out that's what had happened, they had been basically conditioned, or they had been brainwashed to think this is the way the world is. And it was never the way the world is. It was just what they were told constantly, constantly, constantly. We have to be careful that we listen to the one who's got the truth, who is the truth. Jesus is the truth, and he's going to tell the truth, and he's going to give you the truth. And so that you're not taken captive by every wind of doctrine and everything that comes down the pike and everything from the news and everything else. You will listen to him, and he will give you his instruction from heaven about what you need to do, who you are, what needs to happen, and how he's going about answering prayers that have been prayed and bringing correction into places that need it. Okay, so I wanted to tell you that because it was so vivid in my mind when I was getting ready to do this. I thought, my goodness, this is exactly what was happening down in that polygamy compound in Colorado City when it, you know, the police had to come in and break the thing up because it was horrible, you know. And he went to prison, but Warren Jeffs went to prison. But I thought it was interesting that all day long, night and day, all they did was listen to whatever he had to say. Be careful what you hear. Be careful. We hear the voice of the good shepherd, and the voice of another we don't listen to. It's that simple. We hear the voice of the good shepherd. Remember I talked to you last time about Abimelech, where he told Abraham told Sarah, you tell him that you're my sister, because he's going to want to kill me and have you because you're beautiful. And Abimelech had a dream, and in the dream, God said, you're a dead man. He said, that's his wife. And you take her, and you're as good as dead. And he got up in the morning and he said, are you going to kill me like I was innocent? I didn't know. And Abraham had to pray for him. But God will tell you the truth. Listen to me. God will tell you the truth. God will tell you the truth. So be careful that you're not listening to the voice of another, because you'll be taken off. That's all there is to it. And so we're there. It's grow up time. It's tune up time. It's stop living in fear time. It's listening to the voice of the one who loves you. I remember when my kids were little, I said, look, I'm going to discipline you now. I'm going to discipline you now for your bad behavior, because I want you to learn this, because I love you. But if I don't discipline you now, the world is going to discipline you later, and they don't love you. And so when my kids were little, I had to teach them. I had to discipline them, because it was important for them to understand what was right and what was wrong. So that's where we are. All right. I love you guys. We have prophetic prayer night. If you need prayer for your families, get on one of those. It's every other Monday night. And we have prophetic prayer where we pray for you, for your family, for your city, for things that go on. If you've ordered books, be patient with us. We're getting them out. It's a virtue, by the way. It'll test you to teach you patience if you haven't gotten your books yet. I'm having to be patient because we've run out. And so make sure that you're staying in the heartbeat of God, that you understand what He is telling you, and that He's going to teach us from heaven's perspective this year. All right. So I'm going to be in DC. If you can reach out there, if you can show up at that conference, it's on my website. I don't have the address with me, but you can look on there and see it. And then I'm going to be at Troy Brewer at the conference here in Burleson, Texas. On Monday, I'll be doing the 2:00 session, and then the prophetic roundtable. All right. Okay. I love you guys, and we will be talking soon. Okay. There's a whole lot more to come, so it's going to be good. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.